There's this thing called seasonal affective disorder. The acronym is SAD, which is so apt. It's basically about how different seasonal changes can affect people's moods and bring about a seasonal depression. As many of you know, I am currently in New York City, and New York has experienced the coldest winter in over 10 years. But not only that, it has been consistent snow dumps, huge amounts of rain, the winds have been off the chart, and it has just been bleak and cold and a really challenging time, and it's been affecting a lot of people's mental health. So I thought I would give you some of our scientifically backed tips and tricks to help you overcome some of the challenges of seasonal depression and some of the little habits that have helped me get through this incredibly cold winter. Now, meditation is one of the things that I swear by, and I know that Luce and I have talked on other videos and interviews about how we both meditate twice a day. And the reason that I swear by this is because meditation doesn't fix low mood, but what it does is it helps to step outside of spirals, it helps to train the brain to focus on other things. It is a moment of silence. It helps you focus on breathing. And essentially what it does is it calms the nervous system. And so if, I'm experiencing that real sense of low mood or fatigue or a sense of just exasperation and frustration because everything around me is dark and cold and you don't want to go anywhere. Meditation is one of those things that helps me feel like a sense of okay, that's something productive that I know is good for me that I can do, that is going to benefit me. So it gives me a sense of purpose and direction, but it also really just calms the brain, calms the nervous system, calms my breathing, and all of those things actively do boost your sense of mood. And even the days where I am terrible at meditation, like when my brain is going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and I'm really struggling to kind of come back to my mantra, even on those days, I just go, cool, well, that means I really needed it today, because that means today I've got a lot going on. So if I hadn't meditated, imagine how hectic my brain would be. So even when you're having a tough day and it feels like you can't drop in, or it feels like you can't focus on your breathing or your mantra, know that those days of meditating are actually the best days, and you should really, and I really try and celebrate those moments as I've done a really good job, because that has helped me so much. The second thing that I think is really important is to try and keep a routine. Now, this can be really hard when there is a lot going on outside. So, for instance, if the weather is particularly bad, it might mean you can't go for a run, or maybe the subways are down, which means you can't get into work. Plans might be cancelled. So that sense of structure and order, or being able to rely on what you thought you were going to be able to do the next day, gets ripped away from you. So I find keeping a routine in the small things is a really useful way of giving my brain a sense of control, giving my brain a sense of purpose and a sense of achievement. Coffee, having a coffee in the morning. I used to be a multiple coffee person. I'm only having one coffee a day now, so I savor it and I make it and I sit down and I try and look outside the window, or I chat with my partner, or I catch up on messages or different things with friends, so that I'm trying to connect to things but really enjoy that coffee. The other thing is doing some exercise, getting moving. And when it's cold, we particularly want to hibernate. We feel like, I don't want to go anywhere, I want to stay cozy, I don't want to have to get up and active, but it's the best thing for us physically and mentally. So there are days where, I might not be able to go for a run, or I might not be able to make it to the gym because the snow's so bad, or whatever it might be. So on those days, then I'll just put a YouTube video on of some yoga and try and do some yoga in the living room. But whatever it is, I will always try and do at least 20, 30 minutes of exercise, because it releases endorphins, as we know, and those endorphins kind of help make us feel better. It helps us feel active. It helps us feel proud of ourselves, and it flushes the body with breath, with oxygen, with blood, which just refreshes everything. So I guarantee you will feel a little bit better if you do some exercise every day. make the bed. The reason I love making the bed is because whilst I often, could not be bothered to do it when I get up in the morning, when I go back to my bedroom at any time throughout the day or any time at night, it looks so much more inviting, and that is a pleasant feeling, and that kind of helps boost mood. It also gives me something productive to do. It makes me feel like I've achieved something, and all of that is good for our brains, our nervous system, and our sense of purpose. I try and do household chores, which is boring. It's so boring to say that, but I try and do the household chores each day. It's part of my morning routine. The thing that's great about keeping a routine, as small and basic as it might be, is that the brain loves and thrives on predictability, efficiency, safety. So when everything around you is feeling stressful or feeling tedious, having some things that you can do that will help make your brain and your body likely feel safe, feel in control, feeling focused, feeling productive is going to be really, really good for you. One of the things that I think is really important is maximizing light exposure, which in New York can be particularly hard because there are so many tall apartment buildings, and the city is like surrounded by so much concrete that you don't always have a lot of light flooding into a lot of buildings. So if you don't have an apartment that is facing a lot of natural light or getting a lot of light, that can also be really depressing because it can feel like just everything is perpetually dark. Just getting some natural vitamin D is so useful for our bodies and our brains and our sense of like joy and calm. But if you can't do that, then I make sure I've always, lift all the blinds, turn some lights on. Don't sit in the dark in your apartment. It's only going to make you feel worse, and it's also going to interrupt your sleep. Sleep dysregulation. And that often happens when it feels like the day is endless and it feels like it's constantly nighttime because it's dark and gloomy. Our bodies and our brains don't know when to rest, when to sleep. And so we get stuck in this like loop of fatigue, but we're not really properly sleeping at night because our bodies haven't been active enough in the day. They haven't experienced enough sunlight. And so they don't actually move into our sleep pattern properly. That's why I find if I, stick to that routine and go outside or do some exercise every day and make sure I'm trying to get as much sunlight as possible, then that really helps me sleep later when it comes to nighttime, which also means that I'm going to be feeling a whole lot better the next day because I've actually had a better night's sleep. One of the things that I think is so important is to stay connected. And I know that when it's really cold outside, it's hard to sometimes get out to see people. And like I said earlier, plans can often be cancelled, or you won't be able to catch the subway or take transport to where you need to go. So you might not be able to go to an event or someone's house. It just feels like massive effort, and that can be really, really hard. And so we do feel disconnected from people because we're stuck inside and we're not out in the world participating in the same way that we would be when the weather is nicer. For me, what that looks like is I'll call friends on the phone, I'll send video messages or voice memos rather than say a text message. And the reason I do that is because hearing someone's voice is so useful. Getting that emotional response, so hearing their emotion, hearing their intonation helps you feel like you're there with someone. You can actually connect with them better. That auditory response. Me and my girlfriends will try and go to each other's houses, even if it's really cold, so that we can at least be connecting and hanging out with someone else rather than sitting on your own alone. I always try and limit doom scrolling because when we're experiencing some seasonal depression or just like a low mood or a sense of fatigue, it's the easy way to feel like you're seeing what's happening with other people or interacting, but actually our brains are already way more vulnerable, and so it can affect us even more. And it sets up really negative patterns where you just lose heaps of time and you're not actually connecting with anyone. So it can actually leave you feeling more lonely. So I try and put my phone down unless it is to make a phone call or send a voice message or do some work, whatever else it might be that feels productive, but not just scrolling for the sake of scrolling. The things that I do is I'll listen to a pep talk. If I can't connect with someone physically, or I can't call someone and talk to them on the phone, I'll try and listen to a pep talk, because having that auditory feedback of positive, motivational empathy and advice and wisdom is really useful for our brains. It helps you feel like you're connecting with someone, and because it is all solution focused and using motivational language, it does really helps it reset the brain to find something positive and practice gratitude. And so for me, listening to pep talks is one of the things that I will often do. Some of the pep talks that I really find are useful in this time. So just things like, we have a talk that's like called Get Up and Move. That one's really useful when I need to kind of motivate myself to do some exercise, or feeling blur or feeling out of sorts. They're two talks that I often listen to when I'm just feeling just down and I just need someone or something to, or if I just can't quite describe what it is that I'm feeling, but I just need something to validate that they're experiences that we go through, and to kind of help reframe or reshape how I'm seeing things. Some great pep talks that are about being present and actually kind of feeling or practicing gratitude. And they're some of my favorite pep talks. They're things like while you're waiting, whilst washing the dishes, chill morning inspiration. They're just really great talks for when I need to reframe perspective, to be focusing on the things that I have in front of me and focusing on the tools that I have at my disposal. And Luce Durack is so good at gratitude. I have learned so much from her about it. She's one of the best people I know at practicing gratitude. And now her brain just automatically defaults to thinking about things from a growth perspective and looking at every scenario and going, what can I learn from this? Or what can I be grateful for in my life that I have? And I think that that's something that's so wonderful. It is a practice. The more you do it, the easier it is and the faster it kind of comes to you. So they're my habits and tips and tricks for how I've kind of gotten through this winter, and hopefully for how, if you're experiencing some seasonal depression in whatever city you're in, how you can realize that that's totally normal, but there are some ways that you can help, get yourself out of that a little bit, or reframe that doesn't require just waiting and hibernating until it becomes warm again. So please tell me your winter tips and tricks and hacks for what you like to do. We absolutely read all the comments and would love to hear what you do. And thank you so much for joining Lucy and I. We're going to keep sharing some of our science-based habits and lessons and things that we have learnt to try and make all of our lives a little bit more joyous and a little bit more positive. And thanks. Bye.